Hello friends, I am OmnusI, here with you once more for another day's role-playing games a day, RPGaDay 2020, for today, which is the 9th day of August, and today, it's a little bit warmer day, so I kind of went a little more casual. I hope you'll forgive me. But today, the day is light. And I do have a bit to say about that. Again, I could turn this to talking about my role-playing game dice file. So, one of the things I believe in quite strongly is that if you have a system that is good at its core, let me approach this a different way. I have heard that one of the principles of engineering is that a design is not complete when you've added everything that you can, but when there's nothing left to take away. In that example, an excellent game engine and a game system works even if you strip it down to its most bare essentials. Even if it's further down than you intend to ever run it, the core concept should still be sound. And I believe some of the best games can do that. Classic example for you. One of the more, it's pretty well known, I think, retro clones is Swords and Wizardry, done by Frog God Games. This one was done by Matt Finch, I believe. But yeah, this is done by Matt Finch. A lot of people have had a hand in reprinting it and things, It's a solid game. By itself, you can run Dungeons & Dragons styles adventures with just this book. It is, in its own way, very similar to, say, the Rules Cyclopedia for basic Dungeons & Dragons. It has a lot of information in it, including monsters, the magic, treasures, not a huge volume of any of those like you would get if you got all three of the core source books for Dungeons & Dragons, say. But, complete set, not going to overwhelm you with a lot of rules, and this is good old school rules roleplay at its core. So, one of the more interesting things they did with it, I certainly found, was they got my friend, Eric Tenkar Stina, to make Swords and Wizardry Light. Now, Swords and Wizardry Light is 4 pages only. 1, 2, 3, 4. It opens like a menu. It's nice. And on this is everything you need to play, essentially, Dungeons & Dragons, stripping back the rules all the way back, even before Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, to the white box set. To the time when there are just fighters, magic users, clerics, and thieves. Yeah, it has thieves. It has just a handful of spells. Just enough so that you can do what you need to do. The magic user spells, you have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 first level spells and 3 second level spells. So, this is only designed to go up to 3rd level. But it's a complete rules system. It has... This section is just for the monsters. Right here. This whole section is monsters. The back side is basically, or the inside of the fold is for the Dungeon Master. And you have an organization of combat, the weapons that are available, the saving throws, all the good stuff. And you have your armor class matrix, basically. This system can use either advancing or descending armor classes. The ascending is a nod to modern sensibilities if you're coming in from another role-playing game. If you've played 3rd edition, 5th edition, what have you, that would be more familiar to you. If you're more comfortable with a descending armor class starting from 10 and going 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, you can do that with this system. It allows you to do either. There is, as I said, just about everything that you need just in these 4 pages. And it holds pretty true. They also created Swords and Wizardry Continual Light. Nice, I like how they use the spells in there. But what that did was that widened it out to, I believe, 8th level, much like the Expert set did for Beckme. And it added some opportunities for new classes outside of the core 4. So it very much was a graduation from Light to get to Continual Light before you were ready for the full, complete Swords and Wizardry. And again, it's not much of an endorsement, but as far as retro clones go, this is perfectly fine. Feels very comfortable for people who are used to Dungeons and Dragons and all of its arcane glory. The more modern versions of Dungeons and Dragons will be a little bit different. That one, again, uses more old school approaches, but still, the concept runs through, and the principles that you learn from Light, moving up to Continual Light, and finally the wide open game, will help a person to absorb the core rules. Roll a 20-sided die and add something to it to see what your total is. That's the core concept. And if you scale it back so that your weapons, all told, only do a 6-sided die of damage, maybe a 6-sided die -1, or 6-sided die +1, you only use a 20-sided die and 6-sided dice. That's it for Swords and Wizardry Light. So, yeah, outside of all the extra dice that you'll end up using in Dungeons and Dragons, it's a very nice approach that doesn't throw too much at you and make you go out and buy lots of dice and stuff. So I was making my game, certainly, Dice File, and I thought, you know what, my game is kind of intimidating. It requires you to have dice, and it doesn't hurt to have a fair number of dice either. And that's going to further limit the number of people who are interested in my game. There are ways around it, yes, but everybody will need, at the very least, a 4-sided die, a 6-sided die, an 8-sided die, and if you're getting good, a 10-sided die. Rarely will you need a 20-sided die for my game, which is kind of an anomaly these days for ones that use all the dice. So, you got all of that. And I thought, you know, this is possibly going to freeze people out, and I just want to test the core concept of the game to make sure that it's strong. So basically, I did the same thing. I stripped it down to its bare basics. I stripped it down to the smallest value die that you can get. And that is a coin. This is a 2-sided die. Technically, you can make a 1-sided die, but that's kind of dumb. That would be a sphere. But yes, one side is worth 1, the other side is worth 2. That's it. So if you can reduce the concept down so that you just use coins to resolve, that's about as stripped down as you can get on a game based on dice. Enter the Traveling Hat Club. I distilled my game down to 1 page. And if you follow my Facebook page as OmnusI, I've related this to everybody. But a lot of the core concepts for Dice File filter in here, just as readily. So I'm going to really quickly sum over the strengths just from reading off of this 1 page. Oh, and on the back side, I even wrote an adventure. So you've got that to go into. And I've handed out these sheets to various people. So it was, you know, I think it's a fairly solid system for what it is. But the Traveling Hat Club is designed with children in mind. Because honestly, that's the generation that'll eventually supplant us all. And I think if you give them a good grounding in knowing how to play using their imaginations in a structured game setting, the sky's the limit. They'll tell stories that will blow us away. So, hopefully, if they get trapped in the YouTube generation and just watch people being stupid on camera as well. At any rate, so this is the Traveling Hat Club for those of you who never saw any of my videos on it. Basically, the first thing you do, making a character. What do you need? A 3x5 card. We'll do it just fine. Loose leaf paper, whatever. A napkin, fine. The first step is come up with your concept. Your concept is 2 or 3 words. Is it brave knight? Is it spoiled brat princess? Is it, I don't know, gruff dwarven tank? One of them should be an adjective, just kind of, to keep you in line and to help the story weaver find out if you've been playing in character or not and get rewarded as appropriate. But the one word should generally try to describe you as best as you can, if you can boil your essence down to a one word. That doesn't mean that's the limit of your character, but it's so that everybody can hear that and go, oh, okay, I know what you are. Which helps other people to kind of make a concrete image. And also my idea was that you'd make several characters and let people choose the characters, and I'll get to that in a second. So basically you just make that 2-word concept. Then you pick something that the character of your role is best at. So if you're a brave knight, maybe it's swinging sword. If you're a bratty princess, maybe it's boss people around. But it can be pretty vague. Conversely, the story weaver can come up with a list of different skills if they want to be more like a proper role-playing game, but honestly, that's not necessary. The story weaver, though, does have the final veto if somebody has something like kill everyone. It's a little vague, so you can fix that. So that first thing that you pick, that's your specialty. That's what you're best at. Then you get to pick a couple of abilities that kind of fit around that. They can go along with your specialty, or they can kind of broaden yourself. So a brave knight might be, some examples here. It might be something like be brave. That way if somebody attacks you with something that would make you afraid, it'll allow you to stand tall and not run away. It could be something like nature lore, where you would know things about nature and be able to pick things up about nature. It might be keenly aware, so that you don't often fail to notice things that happen. So then you pick a couple of pieces of gear, something that your character is likely to carry around with them. If you're a knight, you probably have a sword. If you're a princess, you might have a mirror, for instance, which can prove useful. Or you might have a magic wand, because you're a princess. You can have that. So between your initial specialty and the abilities after that, those are your talents. That's what your character is good at. The pieces of gear can supplement that. They can keep you protected. You can get armor, for instance. And really, we don't worry about prices or anything like that at this level of the game. Just pick a couple of things that your character would have and we can go. You make your character up inside of a minute. It's really fairly straightforward. I take a little bit longer because I like to add a little flavor and everything. But if you think about your character, easily within 5 minutes. And then you get to choose a prop. Now, this is really what sets this apart as something for kids. My idea was this, why I call it the Traveling Hat Club. You make a bunch of characters up, and everybody picks one. And when you have a character, there's something that goes with that character to remind everybody that you are that character. It helps you to get in character, quite honestly. So, well, say this hat. If I wanted to say newsboy, kind of looks like a newsboy's cap, I might have a cap like this to remind people that I'm a newsboy, and that's my role. Now, you'd have one for each of the characters. So if there's a princess, maybe you make up a wand with a dowel and a piece of ribbon, or, you know, if you're like me, you have a pile of hats. I love hats. That's the idea of it is, though, that if you get stymied, or you just don't like a character, or you don't feel comfortable with where a character's going, you can switch characters. You just take off your prop, and you pick up a new one. That's it. Props just have to be safe. So if you have a foam sword to represent the knight, you can do that. It just, as long as it's not a distraction, you're good. So that's the character. That's it. That's all there is to it. So the mechanics are this. To do things. Basically, it's first come, first serve. If you say in reaction to the storyteller setting up the scene, you say something first, you go first. So the game does reward, sort of, quick thinking. On the other hand, it is quite easy to sit back and let somebody make the first move, and if it's a mistake, try to pick them up. So that can happen too, especially if you are very impulsive and you're prone to making mistakes. Other people might have to bail you out periodically. But that way you don't have to worry about an initiative track of any sort. Just whoever says something first. And then it's a matter of taking your turns. That's all. Players get to go first. Rarely is there going to be a time when the monsters go first unless the monsters have ambushed the players. If the players haven't thought to, keep an eye out on things, generally they're fairly aware and they'll generally go first. And then you take turns. The player gets to do something and the monster gets to try to do something. All of the coins are cast by the players. The Storyweaver does not cast coins. The players all do. So they get to have the fun with that. Now, if you're going to try to do something that is your specialty, like you are a knight and you want to hit somebody with a sword because swing sword is your specialty, you cast 8 coins. If it is your skill, it is something else that you pick but not your specialty, you cast 6 coins. If you don't have any particular skill or talent, you cast 4 coins. And if you use a piece of gear, something to help you, you generally cast another coin. So if you are a knight and you have a sword and you swing your sword at somebody, you're generally casting 9 coins. If it's a magic sword, you might cast 10 coins. That's usually about the top end. And generally, a head is worth 1, a tail is not counted. So yeah, if you cast your coins and you get 4 successes, that's generally going to be enough to harm a tough foe. It will absolutely defeat a lesser foe, like a gobmite, one of the small diminutive creatures in the world of the Traveling Hat Club. But tougher creatures may need more successes, and generally only one person alone is generally not going to be able to solve the problem that a big creature represents. That's why it takes team efforts and cooperation often. And that is what is encouraged in the game. Even if you get an amazing shot, odds are you're not going to resolve an entire thing by yourself. It should encourage other people to work with you. Also, if you get into a fight, again, you are the ones who cast all the coins. So if you have a defensive skill, you cast against your opponent's attack. How tough the monster is depends on how many successes you're going to need. If you fail to defend against an attack, your character faints. They don't die, they faint. That means you take your prop off and you pick up a different role and you try to tackle the situation from another angle. And of course you give somebody else a chance to then make an attempt to solve that problem. So it encourages people to be bold because there's no lasting consequence, and you'll recover after that particular encounter happens. But again, you should be a little bit brave if you want your character that you like to do well. That's basically it. That is the core and central mechanic, and then the last half of it is how to narrate and how to entertain your friends. Come up with a story. Come up with roles that'll work. Otherwise, pick roles that will work well with your story. Split the action of the story into different challenges. Each one's a problem or obstacle for the heroes to overcome. A good adventure has between 5 and 10 challenges. That fills out a 2 to 4 hour span usually, depending on how organized the players are. Yes, some can whiz through that, but if it's only this difficult, it shouldn't be hard to keep going and spin something else off, if it comes down to it. Challenges happen in scenes. You describe the scene to the players and try to put a few pieces of gear in the scene to give your players things to play off of. Things like chandeliers to swing on, or barrels to hide behind, or roll at foes. So, again, encouraging to make a dynamic setting. Once you describe the scene, let the heroes do what they'll do. You can provide some hints, and be ready to give more as the players have their characters explore the scene. Not everything needs to be resolved with the coin cast. Some things are just too easy. So yeah, you have the rule where it's okay to just let the players succeed because they had a good idea. Always been one of my favorite rules. And if a hero tries to do something where a cast is needed, you decide how many heads that they need to succeed. 1's for an easy task, 2 is fairly basic, 3 is pretty tricky, a tough challenge, 4 is the best you can do if you have no skill. So that's important to kind of structure it based on how many dice could possibly be done. If a totally unskilled person has no chance at it, then it might be higher than a 4. If it's something that is almost impossible, like picking up a dragon, that's probably going to be something that's going to require a skill of like brute force, and you probably had better have that as your specialty before you even try something like that. And even then, you're going to need an amazingly good cast. Encourage your players by gifting them with extra coins for good ideas or funny ones. Yeah, throw a bonus coin here and there. It doesn't hurt you, and it makes them feel good. It's a reward. Encouraging them. Don't be afraid to act as the characters you create for your scenes. Make a funny face. Use an accent. Use a catchphrase for a particular character. Make it memorable. Interacting with your players' heroes is what makes a good narrator a great one. And then finally, reward your players. Give the players a chance and let good ideas bring their own rewards. New gear, bonus coins, perhaps even a new skill can be used to tell a player that they're doing a great job. That's the essence of my game. Yeah, you don't even need this. After everything I just told you, you could run your own games for the Traveling Hat Club. It's really that simple. In my adventure, Little Timmy's Big Day, or Little Timmy's Day Out it was. The idea is a little boy from your village goes off to the Monster Cave. The Monster Cave is where the local kids go out into the woods to prove their bravery, and they write their mark in the cave as far as they dare go. It's empty of monsters, but it's easy for your imagination to get the best of you, so very few kids ever get to the back of the cave. And little Timmy insisted that he was going to go out to the cave. Nobody thought he would because he's too small, but he's gone now. And all the other kids from the village, that is, your characters, have to go and get him before the adults notice that he's missing, or they'll never be allowed to go off into the woods by themselves again to play. So, simple premise, fun. Along the way, the characters meet up with gobmites that are small little blue creatures that aren't really mean. They aren't really nasty. They're just maybe a little mean. So it all hopefully ends well with them getting Timmy out of the cave. So, yeah, that is my light reaction to this whole concept of building the game. The Traveling Hat Club was a lot of fun to craft, just thinking about how simple can I make this? How can I pare this down, but still have a game that's fun and allows you to do just about anything? I figured it out, and I'm standing behind this game. I think it's a pretty good one, especially for the youngest kids. But, hopefully you guys thought it was too. And if any of you are interested in it and you want a copy of it, by all means, if you want, you can fire me off fire me off an email at omnusi@att.net. I'll put a link in the description below. But yeah, I'll just send me an email and I will fire you off a copy of the Traveling Hat Club and Little Timmy's Day Off. I am working on making a little bit more fully fleshed version. But, realistically, this is a beginner's guide to role-playing games. This allows you to take unbounded creativity and start applying rules to it so that you can play with other people in a directed way. And as simple as it gets, you got 10 coins, you can play this game. I'll be honest with you too, part of the reason why I made this game was a friend of mine works in a correctional institution. And here in Wisconsin, inmates can't play role-playing games. They can't. It's banned. Supposedly, they don't want people planning breakouts and prison escapes by having games that encourage them to think about such things. That's taboo. Honestly, there have been a host of different studies that say that it actually helps inmates to cope with being inside, and it's a good pastime to stimulate their minds and generally improve their morale a bit, which I don't see as being a bad thing if you're stuck inside a prison with all these other people, many of whom have bad intentions. I think opening up some role-playing game clubs in prisons might be awesome. And I really hope that some of those people would come out with great ideas and stories and, campaign worlds eventually. Be cool. But that, with this game, I don't care what prison you go to. Anybody can make a simple two-sided die from soap or something. You can play a role-playing game in prison with this no matter what they do, as long as you can converse with someone else. I hope it doesn't get anybody in trouble, but honestly, I don't believe in that restriction. But also, if you are out and about and you have access to paper, a writing implement, and 10 pennies, you can play a role-playing game with anybody else. Just saying. Now you have that weapon, you have that tool to play the Traveling Hat Club. May not be as cool as if you have all the props and the hats and everything, but you can still play. And again, depending on what the person's background is, it may feel really comfortable if you're used to playing narrative style games like Fate, where the players come up with the story in the main and the storyteller's just there to direct. Might be a really good game for you. So, once more, thank you for joining me. I am OmnusI. This has been my game. This has been RPGaDay 2020. And I think it's time to turn this light out. So until next time, thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time here in my lair. Thanks, and farewell.